Welcome back to The Viewpoint. And from News Now, we get into what is happening in the headlines today. And today being a Valentine, I also have guests in studio. And on my immediate right is Advocate Agnes Kariuki Gachui, who is the advocate of the High Court and also a governance expert. And on my far right, I have Bwana Sosion, who is a former nominated MP. Karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
Mnaendeleaje?
Tuko poa.
Today being a Valentine, do you have any plans, Bwana Sosion? Especially now that you have a red tie.
The plans that you need to have is plans from your heart.
Yes.
Sanctify your heart. And, you know, biblically, one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit is love.
Yes.
So I wish all Kenyans happy Valentine.
Yes.
And love your neighbor as you love thyself.
Yes.
So says the Bible.
Yes.
Yes.
How about you? How about you, Advocate Agnes?
Well, the plan is to wake up and love the country, to always wake up and love Kenya.
Yes.
And that is the wish I would have for my fellow Kenyans.
Okay.
Wake up, love this country, build this country. Yes.
Well, now let's get into what is making headlines in our dailies today. And the headline on the Daily Nation is a story about ghost workers. Ghost workers get away with 35 billion. That is civil servants with fake papers unmasked. The paper is saying the Senate Watchdog Committee has investigated bogus salary payments, demanded payroll audits from counties. Some differed, and for those that appointed task forces, a High Court order has outlawed them with the probe stalled. Rogue officials get to keep the loot. Let me start with you, Bwana Sosion. What is your feeling about this whole issue of ghost workers? When will we overcome this issue of ghost workers? Because we are talking about monies getting lost, monies that can go into very important projects in the country.
From my background of labor movement,
yes,
if such a thing exists in any office, then it's a big omission. And those responsible must be brought to books. We cannot talk of ghost workers in a country that is reeling from a serious youth unemployment of up to 68%. It's serious. It's a grave issue. We've got many skilled youth, trained, some unskilled, but willing to work, jobless, but non-existent individuals are perceived to be paid salaries, which actually is not individuals. It's not individuals, but those vested with the accounting responsibilities of managing our resources at various governance levels, whether national or at devolved units, or even in other public institutions. It is wrong. It is immoral. We should not even discuss it. It is criminal. Somebody must be criminalized and made to pay for plunder of such resources. Kenyans sweat to pay the taxes, and the taxes must be protected to deliver services. If we are talking about paying salaries, let's pay salaries for real people who are working and who are on payroll. So this it sounds like fiction. Should it really happen in Kenya and we watch it, talk about it over in the media houses and leave it? Somebody out there must criminalize and deal with these individuals. Those with fake papers, and we've seen the number is huge, cannot be a cheating country, and there is need to clean up the payroll data and across the country, across all public institutions, so that certificates are authenticated, and those who genuinely have genuine certificates, those who have misused, forged certificates or varying the results at different level, academic results at different level, those ones should be taken out of the payroll, and we maintain genuine and honest Kenyans in the public service. The problem that we have in this country, and the president has said it time and again, and I think it's all of us to pick it: incompetencies in leadership of our institution, conflict of interest, and corruption. the mind of an individual when occupying an office is how to make quick money and how to pursue personal interest in that office. That is abuse of office, and that is lack of integrity. And by doing so, really because of lack of, how do people get to those particular offices? Through shortcuts, through favors, and that is why we have this incompetence. So other than looking at it from, these are just indicators of poor leadership of our institutions. And as the president has stated, it is not enough to state, can we now move from words to action? Let's have competent Kenyans leading all our institutions, and let us have our institutions free from conflict of interest totally, and free from corruption. We'll have a beautiful country. This is a potential country.
Yes.
It's a strong economy. It's a vibrant economy. And talking about ghost workers, we should not talk about it now. We should be talking about how to create jobs for hardworking Kenyans who have graduated from our public institutions with competencies and skills, and how to create jobs for them locally and externally. That's what we should be talking about. We should not be talking about losing billions of shillings through cost. Somebody must be made to account. And I think it is time in this country that we criminalize corruption. That is, I went to Malaysia, and Malaysia to be what it is. If you are found, if you are culpable for corruption in any public office, you are sentenced to death, and it's really die. That is what is happening in many economies. So, but you see, human rights activists here in Kenya will tell us we don't want deaths, and we need to punish.
But also
this.
the question of goodwill from the government in as far as fighting graft is concerned. Do we have from the successive government, do we have goodwill in as far as fighting corruption is concerned?
Government is very complicated, and it is strange, and it can be invested. The president has said, in government, there are incompetent leaders. In government institutions, there is conflict of interest. In government institutions, there is corruption, and there's corruption everywhere. In the executive, in the judiciary, in the legislature. And these are facts. We must tell ourselves the truth. And by the president stating and outlining that, it's for us to see and deal with it. When he was in Western Kenya, where the sugar industry has collapsed because of cartels, and he said under no uncertain terms, these cartels and these individuals within this country, there are only three things for you: either leave the country, go to jail, or go to heaven. That was a firm position, because I think governance systems in this country have entertained these cartels and have allowed them to thrive. And I think the mission by the president must be supported by all of us, so that then we even see the sugarcane farmers earning a living. We see the milk farmers fetching high prices for the hard work. We see the tea farmers. You know, you sell a kilo of tea at $3. $3 times 160, that's 480 shillings.
Yes.
But you pay that hardworking farmer who spends a lot of time working at the farm and waiting for long hours at the bandas to weigh the tea or the leaf, you pay them 19 shillings a kilo. Really, is that moral? Who is this who takes away 90-something% of the earning within the chains? The same case in coffee. We can go everywhere. If we can be determined to uproot these cartels who have occupied government, and these cartels are funny. They are constant in government. In every regime, they will metamorphose themselves and somehow survive, find a position and run the show. So the regimes doesn't matter to them. As they change, they still take over. And I think that is what the president has pointed out very strongly. And remember, the cases that were used to frustrate sugarcane industry in Western Kenya have been removed from court. And those things, they are falling. And I'm telling you, those involved in corruption in the government of President William Ruto, if they are there, if they dare attempt, then they are waiting for the Waterloo. They will go.
All right.
They will go. And I think it is time.
Yes.
We have a government that can sweep aside anybody, any individual involved in corruption and engaged in conflict of interest and promoting bad leadership.
All right.
We need, in fact, with good leadership in this country, in all institutions, things will move. You'll see sugarcane farmers enjoying, you'll see tea farmers enjoying, you'll see maize farmers. Now with subsidized fertilizer and the rest, you can see there's food. Things are working. Actually, the country can work if we can facilitate the citizenship and we remove these cartels and these individuals who are creating ghost workers' payroll just to create money for themselves. It is immoral.
Still on that case, it's not the first time we are hearing about cases of ghost workers. It's something that we hear more often than not.
Yes.
Where do we go wrong in as far as this is concerned? Because we are starting to lose a lot of money as a country.
I must agree with my senior, first of all, that cartels in this country are very innovative. So with every regime, they find a way to metamorphosize. They're very innovative. They find a way to survive. Okay. So I think our problem, not just the government, but even us as individuals, we're not retributive enough of immoral stances that now stem out corruption, or what we now know as corruption. If we see corruption even in our private settings, at home, at the kibanda, you've gone to the supermarket, there are things you see and you don't stand up for them, that is corruption. So now when we start from there and we normalize some of these things, with time we have come to normalize the issue of ghost workers. At the end of the day, we're the ones who are paying taxes through our nose, okay? And we should feel the pinch. And to that end, I think what the President and the EACC are trying to achieve with this audit, with this radical overhaul in all systems of public service is very important. It's laudable. I support him. And I think he should remain very strong and very stringent with it, with whatever measures he has in place to completely wash out these cartels and all these characters that are siphoning money illegally from our systems.
Now, even as we talk about ghost workers, counties stand to lose more. So how do they cooperate with the government to root out this aspect of ghost workers?
There must be goodwill from governors. Ultimately, the spirit of devolution is bringing power closer to the people. So they have to have the goodwill of bringing power to the people. Ultimately, they must decide. At this point, you must decide, do you want this county to run? Do you want revenue streams from the from the treasury, from the national government? Otherwise, if you're not going to be able to cooperate, and by the way, this is upon them, the county governments, the governors, it's upon them to choose to cooperate with the national government, to choose to weed out the ghost workers themselves from their own county public service commission, to choose to work with the EACC and all other mechanisms that are in place, the ombudsman, the ODPP, the judiciary, to ensure that we do away completely with the issue of ghost workers. That is where we lose a lot of money, especially at the county level. It's not even at the national level, it's at the county level. That is where the adventures of ghost workers, embezzlement, siphoning, that is where it's thriving.
That is very interesting. And the story here is saying that the Senate's investigations into the loss of at least 35 billion to ghost workers risk going up in smoke following a September 2023 High Court decision that barred counties from forming teams to probe financial books in devolved units. So the paper here says any audit at a public entity must be done with Auditor General's authority. What's your view on that?
I believe if we have laws in place, we do have laws in place as regards the Auditor General, as regards mechanisms of how to go about audits. It's upon the county government again to cooperate with mechanisms within the national government and every other entity within the Constitution. The Auditor General is an office ratified by the Constitution of Kenya. To work with them, seek the assistance requisite from them, as opposed to making any extrajudicial or extra mandates that go beyond their mandate. Just work within that. It's still going to work. There's no politics. There's no politicking with that. In fact, I think the Auditor General is one of the most trusted public institutions in this country at the moment. So I don't see why they would not want to work with the Auditor General to that end.
Mwalimu, your views on that?
No, Kenya is one country that has the best laws, the best legal framework, but we don't enforce. We undermine. We seek to undermine and promote lawlessness, bringing in alternatives like the forming probe teams at the counties to investigate financial impropriety is actually bringing strangers to do a job that is not theirs within law. No law in this country assigns probe teams to check payrolls. The Constitution is clear, and the comptroller, the Auditor General, has sweeping mandates to audit all financial transactions within government entities, be they national and be they devolved units and even in schools, so that any entity that's operating within the umbrella of government of the Republic of Kenya is subjected to auditing by the Comptroller and Auditor General. And county funds should not be an exception of thorough funding. And where there is suspected impropriety, then a forensic audit, a thorough forensic audit should be undertaken. And you know, when you talk of forensic audit, it means there is criminal liability for those who are involved, and they are made to pay the price. Some of these probes that are used are kangaroo entities where figures and data is massaged. We don't want massaged data. Let an office that is created by the Constitution and the laws of this country do its work to the farthest level possible. And I agree with the council here that there must be total cooperation between county government and national government. These are not different entities. They are governments of the Republic of Kenya. The only difference is that another one is devolved. But cooperation of both national and county government is provided, I think, is it Article 159 or 160? I'm not a lawyer, but there is a provision that allows that cooperation so that there is seamless auditing of money. Those are public fund. And even mechanisms on even how to spend county money. There is provision for public participation. You can't fund a project unless you take it to the public for public participation and identification. You can't employ anybody without the approval of the Public Service Board. So we believe the Public Service Boards will be independent and operational at that level. Yes. And you can't plan any money without approval by the Comptroller of Budget. Yeah, so these are institutions that exist for purposes of protection of our revenue. And these are independent officers. Yes. And they should remain as such. And they must have teeth to bite. And where such impropriety is detected, conduct a forensic audit and prosecute those who are involved. Individuals must be made answerable and they must be prosecuted. Yes. In fact, if we get down to prosecute these individuals, then I think we'll go very far. Yes. And the summit meeting of the three-arm summit meeting.
Let's take a
led by the president and the speaker and chief justice. Yes. Address this issue of corruption and matters to do with expediting cases in court and what the judiciary needs to be able to also prosecute and bring them to book. I think that was discussed. It is time we deal with these individuals without mercy. Yes. Any extension of mercy or favor is committing economic suicide.
Let's go
and jeopardizing the future of Kenya.
Let's go for a short commercial break. The Viewpoint continues shortly. Welcome back to The Viewpoint on Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwi, and in studio I'm joined by Mwalimu Wilson Sosion and also advocate of the High Court. Her name is Agnes Kariuki. Now, let's continue. The Star is on the first page of the Star. Wage bill crisis. Boards demand doubled salary. MPs, judges, and MCAs are among state officers clamoring for more pay. Let me start you with Wakili. What is your feel about the demand for a rising double pay or a rising salary amidst the ballooning wage bill?
I think it's a joke. State officers need to understand that that is impossible right now. We are going through an economic crisis, not just as a nation, but globally. Everything is going down as we speak right now. Okay, so you cannot be asking for a wage bill. You cannot be asking for a pay rise. You cannot be asking for more allowances, especially as state officers. That means, as it is, as state officers, they have some privileges that the average public servant would not have. That the average, even in the private sector, the average employee would not have.
Yes.
That is impossible. That is an ask that cannot be addressed at the moment. Let us look at how Kenyans have food on the table. Every Kenyan household has food on the table. Let us see how our CBC children, the ECD children, are they getting some lunch at school, some nutritious food at school? That is what they should be asking. That is what the MCA should be talking about.
From what you're saying, this is ill-timed.
Yes, correct, precisely. It is ill-timed. This is not the time to be asking for rises, pay rises, and expansion of allowances. Yes.
Mwalimu, the public service boards have sued the SRC on this issue. What is it? They are saying that they want to have benefits similar to those paid at the Public Service Commission level. Can it be done?
I think SRC has not achieved the intention for which it was intended to. Because before the creation of SRC, there was a culture of accounting officers and state officers determining their own salaries to the detriment of workers at the lower level. And that is why Kenya has a huge salary differential of 1 to 200, when in fact, globally, the recommended salary differential is 1 to 25. That means the highest paid worker in the government payroll should not be more than 25 times the lowest paid worker. So SRC was to correct that and bring down the salary compression to acceptable levels. And this unauthorized management of payroll, particularly by state officers and senior officers on higher salary brackets, is still creating an imbalance in the wage bill.
Yes.
The wage bill should be stratified in such a way that the allocation is fair across board. In fact, right now with the harsh economy, the salary reviews that should be undertaken as a matter of urgency are for the lower cadre workers.
Correct.
Who don't have privileges of allowances, who don't sit in board meetings, who don't attend workshops, and who don't even have the privilege of taking tea in their workplaces. And they suffer to come to the workplace. Those are the people to be looked at. But we cannot create an animal farm where some animals are more equal than the others. That is what we've heard in the payroll. And to me, that should not happen. SRC should have stamped that authority. We should see SRC achieving what it was created to do, to determine in terms of law is not an option. Salaries and benefits of all state officers. But you see, the previous administration assigned SRC a mandate that is not provided in the Constitution to determine salaries for other public servants, the workers at the lower cadre, who are supposed to enjoy under Article 41 to negotiate. That is where the rain started beating us. SRC started submitting to the whims of the state at that time and started doing wrong things. And we engaged with them in the courts of law as workers, which was wrong. Its business is to deal with payroll of state officers. That is read clearly in the Constitution with the simple language that anybody who is not a lawyer does understand. That's a fact for sure. And that is how to bring sanity in this country. And to me, review salaries for lower cadre workers across board when the economy is harsh. But the state officers and constitutional office holder, no, that they should be, SRC should be able to stamp its authority and determine. But what SRC should not do is to reduce the existing benefits. You don't do that. You either maintain or enhance, but you cannot reduce. That is not right. You can maintain, and that is how to achieve, how to correct the salary differential gradually, is to ensure that you keep reviewing periodically the earnings of workers at the lower level upwards, while maintaining or increasing at a decreased rates the earnings of those at the top. Then over a period of 10 years, when SRC came into being, now 13th year, from 2010 in 2023, we should be talking about a salary differential that has come down from 1 to 200. Maybe it should be at 1 to 50.
Reasonable.
But if that we have not achieved, then the role of SRC in terms of auditing the Constitution, the spirit for which it was created and intended to do, it has not done it. It has been used as a clap to target those lower workers. And it has no teeth to bite and deal with the state officers.
The public service boards are arguing that they have the same functions as the Public Service Commission.
Board,
and they are
Public
paid
Service
much less.
Board and the Public Service Commission in the Constitution do not have powers whatsoever to determine any earnings and allowances. It is determined by SRC, and it's a matter of take it or leave it, because those are privileged positions.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are privileged positions.
Yes.
If you are in a privileged position, then you take what is given to you. And that is a practice all over the world, including even members of parliament in many jurisdictions. If you are an MP, for example, in the UK, in the US, and the rest, you take what is allocated to that office only because that's a privilege. Those are offices of privilege. Those are not labor jobs. They are not employment jobs. And I don't think Kenyans voting members of parliament, voting MCAs, or voting the president and to give them jobs. These are not desperate people. These are individuals who are expected to serve selflessly and alleviate the suffering of the people.
But we also
So we cannot turn privileged jobs, privileged responsibilities in the country to be jobs that you sit and agitate. That will be morally wrong. It is immoral.
Why then do we always hear them, the MPs, the MCAs, always clamoring for more pay?
From what I've heard some elected officers say, mostly MCAs, is a lot of the time they end up spending what they would have spent on maybe development in social welfare. Matanga, umeitwa, mtoto ameanguka, mtoto wako hospitali, paying hospital bills and whatnot, which is not what they're supposed to be doing. An MCA is supposed to be oversighting what exactly the county government is doing. The governor, what the funds at the county level are supposed to be used for, that is what an MCA does, oversight.
Yes.
An MP oversights the county government, of the national, of the executive, and legislate. Okay, so that is exactly what they are voted in to do: serve. It's public service. It's a vocation. They chose to run for office. Okay, so you go there, do what you're supposed to do. At the end of your term, go home. You did not come here like earlier. Heshimiwa had exactly. Heshimiwa had said earlier that sometimes some of these ghost workers or people who end up in the government payroll go there specifically to create wealth, which is against what a government does. A government is the custodian or an administrator of a republic. You go there to serve that republic. You do not go there to amass wealth. So at the end of the day, we should be focusing on how are these people serving us? What have they done for us? What are they doing? Do they understand what they're supposed to be doing? Do they understand this is service? It's a vocation. You chose to run for office.
Yes.
Simple.
Because sometimes when this clamor for pay comes up, especially in parliament, that is when the house, sometimes you find it's very full.
Yes, everyone is in
Other instances,
attendance.
you
Exactly.
find that attendance is a little bit wanting.
Which is
And
curious.
that is because we have created a lacuna. There is no control. When there is firm and effective control from SRC, we will not have this problem. And these excuses of, I agree with council here.
Yes.
When you are electing an MCA, what is the job description of an MCA? To come and splash money around in the
village.
in the village and conduct fundraisings? No. And I think these issues were corrected during Kibaki administration.
Yes.
That even you, as an elected leader, you are not supposed to be a chief guest in a fundraising, because that is not your work. The work of an MCA, once you are elected, is to go to the assembly. Your job is in the assembly.
Legislate and oversight.
It is in the assembly to oversight and to make laws, to represent, and to speak for the people. Your job is to speak. The microphone is there for you. The Hansard is there to record.
Yes.
The media is there to report. That's where your work is. The same case with members of parliament. Move bills, legislate, oversight, and represent. Because parliament is alive, it has infrastructure, it has research, it has lawyers, it has everything. Your job is to work within that entity. But the conflict of elected leaders doing executive work like development. Development should be the business of executive. And that's why you hear now there's a clamor for World Development Fund
Yes.
to be controlled by the
MCA.
MCA. Just like CDF being controlled by members of
Or parliament.
parliament.
National Assembly.
I agree. CDF is the best fund. And even World Development would be the best fund. But what will be the role of the MP? To oversight the operation of those funding. That's what needs to be corrected. That then, at the constituency level, there is a CDF fund. What would be the role of the MP? The role of the MP should not be to manage, because that goes against the principle of the role of a member of parliament in the constitution of legislating, representation, and oversight. How do you manage when you're supposed to oversight? It doesn't work. So really, there has to be a way of handling it so that the MPs, the members of parliament, can oversight the operations of CDF very closely. In fact, MPs can do a good job. They can oversight the delivery of services in education very closely and ensure it is done well. The way Ndindi Nyoro is doing in Kiharu, is able to work on all those things and assist and ensure that things are done. That's how it's supposed to be done. We need to get it right on the limitations of roles of members of parliament or elected leaders in some of these programs being executed. So if that is done, then you'll not have to play if I'm elected a member of parliament for 5 years, a contract for 5 years, my job is to sit at the National Assembly and get down to interact with the people once in a while with respect to matters of legislation, with respect to matters of representation of their issues, because I'm their voice, and the Constitution is clear. The power belongs to the people and can be exercised through elected leaders. I'm supposed to exercise that. But you're not supposed to be a philanthropic, generous moneygram machine splashing money around.
Social welfare.
I don't think it's a moral thing. Even for me, wherever I've worked, I've always restrained from getting involved with things to do with amassing money and dishing money. You push ideas, provide leadership, and it works quite well. So these arguments of low salaries because we have so many activities that you have doesn't really augur well. As a country, can we protect and professionalize the offices of elected leaders so that we know them, once we elect the MCAs, we don't need to see them around unless when they're coming to consult with the people and do other things. But we don't need to expect them to be doing more fundraising and other things than representing us at the assemblies. And if that is done, and you deliver services to the people, they will not need this. Things to do with fundraising for healthcare things. If we roll out a working universal healthcare program and you oversight universal healthcare program in a way that everybody is going to be treated, where fundraising for healthcare will come from. Hiyo itatokea wapi? If we ensure that education is affordable, because already there's a lot of money in education sector, and we've seen in Kiaru constituency that parents can only pay 1,000 shillings.
Yes.
For day secondary and complete Form 4, and you have the uniform, you have the feeding program is taken care of. If that is done, if you oversight the delivery of education to the extent that no parent pays, will you even need bursaries? You will not need bursaries.
You will not need bursaries, no.
Because some of these programs that you've created are unnecessary. It is proper oversight, proper management to ensure that the basic social services are fully delivered qualitatively to the satisfaction of the people. They will not need you. Yeah. In fact, they will only want you to share with them and feel happy with your presence. Yes. Because if you put frameworks of problem-solving systems through governance infrastructure that answers to the needs for healthcare, the needs for education, the needs for jobs, and the needs for other issues, why would you go put the little money that you've earned, because that is not a lot of money that you earn through the payroll, it's not so much, and that is meant to compensate you for your work, and that is money for your family.
Yes.
How do you then go? If services have been adequately delivered, the people will not complain. People will be happy.
Before we do away with the Star newspaper, there's a story on page 6, and it's concerning the issue of forged papers. And it's saying Interior Ministry and Kenyatta National Hospital top with number of culprits who have fake papers. Do we have effective systems in our government institutions that can verify these papers? Because here we are seeing a case of, so far, over 2,000 cases that have been identified.
2,000 is a lot.
Yes.
And especially for healthcare workers. Yes. We do have the requisite mechanisms. Again, you go back to the Public Service Commission, you go to the Kenyatta Human Resource Department. The Ministry of Interior itself can come up with the requisite mechanisms and infrastructures, as my good senior was talking about. We do have all of these mechanisms in place. Again, the question of enforcement. Are we enforcing all of these things? How did they get into the system in the first place? You see, this goes back to the question of ghost workers, okay? We have a system that is not retributive enough. We do not punish corruption enough. We do not criminalize it enough. We do not demonize it enough. And that is why we continue seeing cases such as this. And expect a lot of cases of negligence in terms of medical practice from that. But in the meantime, yes, we do have the requisite mechanisms in place across the board. And it's not just for Kenyatta National Hospital. That is just one story. There are so many other public institutions that will have similar situations to that. And you wonder, how did they end up there in the first place? How did they end up in the payroll? How did they end up getting hired? Who is supposed to verify these papers? Exactly,
the question of verification. Is it effective enough, or
it should be effective enough through the departments, through the institutions. We have so many institutions that can look into that. For instance, now that we have the issue of forged papers, has the Ombudsman tried to look into that? We have the Commission of Administrative Justice. That is their job. Has the EACC looked into that? What is the PSC doing about it? Okay, which institutions were supposed to transition trainees from the educative or the formal training systems into the employment systems? Was it KMTC? Was it universities? Was it public universities? Was it private universities? Are they working? Are they liaising with these institutions to find out if these people actually merit and actually have those the requisite papers from the institutions themselves? We have the systems in place.
No, what about the skills? What about the skills? Because you are dealing with a case of forged papers, and that also speaks to the skills of various designations in the workplace.
Yeah.
Can't that be one of the things that point out that this person or that person, something is not right?
I have just spoken about negligence.
Yes.
You should expect to see some level of negligence. Be it the nurse, be it the doctor, be it even the cleaner. They're trained to a certain extent. There should be certain elements of negligence, certain elements of carelessness at the workplace. And that in itself should tell you. Even how people draft. There's an article that I saw last year, and they were talking about how some of the graduates who are entering the workplace, and especially from certain universities, are not at par, intellectually, are not at par with what is expected by the employer. So those are markers. There are certain markers that should be able to tell the employer, you know, something is not right. Can we do a background check on these individuals? Can we do a background check on people in this department, people who are supposed to do this? Yes. It's quite possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I also want to hear from Mwalimu his sentiments on this, but we'll do that after this short break. Let's go for a break. We'll come back to you. Welcome back. The Viewpoint continues now. And before we went on a break, I wanted to hear the sentiments of Mwalimu Sosion on the issue of forged papers. Now, given that Public Service Commission has established over 2,000 cases of people who have used forged papers to secure employment.
And Public Service Commission should undertake a further thorough forensic audit of certificates of all employees in the public service with the view of punishing and weeding out those not meriting or those who might have generated fake documents. Yes. I think we are talking about River Road certificates. We know the River Road certificates. If you want a very good Kenya National Examinations Council certificate with good grades, you would go to River Road and pay and generate. And we have seen many River Road certificates of Kenya National Examinations Council and even of universities, but particularly Kenya National Examinations Council, used for entry to various training courses. Yes. And that was practiced for a long time. Like, for example, KMTC courses, medical courses. You know, the threshold that is set is so high because these are medical personnel. Yes. And remember, even medical doctors, they are never classified when they are graduating because you must qualify to take care of life. They only take what you call Hippocrates oath of service. So what happened here in Kenya is that Form 4 students altered KCSE results at River Road and actually found their ways to the KMTCs and other institutions and trained, qualified, and joined the active employment sector. That is why you can see it's featuring Kenyatta National Hospital where the medical institutions, because the threshold was high. Others used River Road certificates to join private universities, because there are many private universities. And since they're in business, they never audited strictly the certificates for application to join those particular courses. And therefore, if this process had gone on for a long time, and there could be other courses, of course, you cannot forge a certificate to join a teacher training college in Kenya, because that is a public institution. This happened particularly with respect to private training institutions. You cannot forge a certificate to join the University of Nairobi. It's not possible. So we are talking about such fake documents that have been altered and that individuals have undertaken training and graduated through private institutions and are already populated in employment in the public service. The question is it genuine? There even could be others who join public universities using certificates of others. That is what we call impersonation. And this contributes what we call abuse of merit. The employment positions that these individuals have taken over could have been taken up by Kenyan graduates who merit. And Kenyan graduates who merit, if given those jobs, they would be doing a better job for now. I'll give you a story of Korea. People have been talking about Korea has overtaken us. We were in the same state as in the year 1960, but now it's an industrial nation and it's all about education and merit. In the Korean education system, to be a teacher, you must be a top scorer. So the top students in Korean schools join teaching. That's a secret. So that the pool of teachers they have is made up of the best. But here in Kenya, the top students join medicine and law, like my lawyer here. If my lawyer here was in Korea, she would actually be a teacher. And 57% of the parents would like their children to join teaching. Why? Teaching is the mother of all professions. And that is why they have a strong, high caliber, quality teachers in the teaching profession. And that reflects in the entire education system up to tertiary. It's all about the best and the best.
Yes.
The best from the citizens. And look at what the US have been doing through Ivy League universities, the track scholarship and the rest. Here in Kenya, you have seen those track scholarships. It goes to who? It goes to the top A, the best students from Kenya. And they never come back.
Yeah.
They end up in the active employment sector in those economies.
Yes.
Now, here as a country, we are promoting river road documentation and letting those who don't merit to get into active employment. What type of value do we get from such individuals? Low quality. That is why we have incompetent leadership, conflict of interest, and corruption. Somebody who forged a certificate in River Road will definitely be a thief in office.
It's actually a
in later years.
Yeah.
So we could be having a public service commission populated by dishonest individuals who practice theft. If you can alter grade D+ in mathematics at Kenya National Examination Council and change it overnight to B, and you actually succeed to get admitted to a training institution, and you graduate, and you actually succeed to get employed. Now, when those fellows run down the medical facilities in our public institution, should we complain? So I think those are facts. It's more to this, and I think you, the media, you are not doing justice to these expos. It should be the top story, the headline in all the newspapers. It should be the top discussion in all of, because I vote for these students who merit to occupy these positions. Who are these young Kenyans who could have merited to occupy these positions who are aged out by these fraudsters? And if there are 2,000, it's a huge number. Huge number. 2,000 is a big number. So I think there is need to do what you call forensic audit of academic documents from KCPE, KCSE, all through of anybody employed in government institutions and all institutions, whether private or public, so that we know those who are in employment with genuine documentation. That is the beginning of the war against corruption. And therefore, I don't think it should just be a story of the ombudsman there, the ESCC there, and the Chair Public Service Commission going to give some narratives, and we see the news and it dies there. It is something that must be followed up, so that then we know we are a country of merit. When we see those top students who score grade A's in KCSE exams, we are certainly sure that in the next 7-8 years, they are in active employment through merit within the public service at all levels or in the private sector and driving the country. And cumulatively, when we allow merit to take root in employment, in any form of employment, even in your own farm, if you want to employ a farm manager, it's merit. If you want to employ someone who takes care of your milk and checks the quality of milk and all that, it is all about merit, it is skills. If we begin rewarding merit in this country, protecting merit and glorifying merit, we will see a change in the delivery of public service. So I think, to me, this is the most urgent thing, as from the professional position where I sit. And Kenya National Examination Council now has the infrastructure to confirm everybody's results. All employers can send KCSE results. The documents of academic documents of all the employees to NEC for verification. That is what TSC is now doing. I know, I've checked with the Teacher Service Commission.
So
All those applying for employment, their certificates must be authenticated by the Kenya National Examinations
yes, Council.
Council. And any document that is forged should not only eliminate you from employment, but it should take you to community prison,
Yes.
not anywhere else. Community prison. And we should know that we criminalize
Yes.
some of these activities. And when we
Absolutely.
criminalize, absolutely,
Yes.
that is a strong deterrent measure. You will not hear of river road certificates,
Yes.
and you will not hear of corruption in the public service. Let me tell you, somebody who forges a certificate
Yes.
will be a thief in office, for
sure.
sure. So why are we complaining about corruption? When we allowed thieves who forge certificates at River Road
Yes.
to, and we have seen even during elections by IBC, clearance of individuals, we see very bold Kenyans with questionable certificates and documents that still being cleared and they get elected to offices. No, Kenya must reward the best, and even during elections, we and some civic education. I don't know, our lawyers who have worked very hard. This is a matter of human rights. We should be able to open the eyes of our people so that then even during election, you reward merit.
Yes.
And you reward academic competence, says elect the best, those whom we know, we can authenticate. We know you. You graduated from the University of Nairobi, and we know the date of your graduation.
Yes.
And we know your classification, whether you got a pass, whether you got a distinction, whatever. But we should know
Yes.
you attended this university and you graduated properly, and therefore you merit to be in this office. But when you tell us that you graduated in some funny university, that is dubious. Then we are creating a problem. It is time we reward merit, both in employment, even in public service, and also we reward merit in public leadership,
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
where we elect people.
Let's-
If we did that, in 10 years, we shall be telling a story.
Yes. Now, let's move on to the Standard, and the first page is saying that Ruto goes after an expensive loan to settle Eurobonds. President William Ruto's gamble to raise billions of shillings of new debt from international investors has paid off after the government received bids of over $6 billion spread to 2031. However, the new loan comes at a steep price as the country will pay almost double the interest rate it had on the loan it is repaying. Your sentiments to this story?
That was very ambitious and a very high-risk venture by the
Yes.
president. But I think it was only necessary that he does that, and especially now that we were looking at a looming deadline for June for the maturing the Eurobond.
Yes.
So for me right now, what I'm thinking is, yes, we desperately needed this, but how sustainable is it for us?
Yes.
What is William Ruto going to do about it in terms of fiscal policies? What measures is he going to put in place to ensure that this money is coming in are well spent? How is he going to ensure that we have austerity cuts, especially from those very state officers we were discussing earlier? We must have some measures in place for everyone so that we are able to ensure that monies are not lost. We are not unnecessarily rewarding people.
Yes.
And where money is supposed to be spent is spent properly. Whatever is supposed to be paid back is paid back in good time. In terms of revenue collection, we are doing the right thing when it comes to generating and collecting revenue from our citizens to ensure that ultimately we are able to pay that. You can see the interest rate is not a joke. It's double digits.
Yes.
Compared to what we had. It's almost double of what we were paying with the Eurobond. So yeah, that's my sentiment at the moment. But that's an area we really need to be looking at. All of us, every Kenyan needs to be monitoring that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mwalimu, the country will pay almost double the interest rate it had on the loan it's repaying.
What is the state of the debt at the moment in Kenya? It's bad. And we overborrowed, and the country is facing a total shutdown through a serious debt distress. And this president has been very candid about it, all of us. This is an open economy. Yeah, none of us is a stranger about it. The level of taxation on Kenyans has had to go high to be able to meet the debt obligations.
Yeah.
And we cannot do that for many years. At least at some point, Kenyans must be relieved. And therefore, getting the country out of the debt distress was a mandate of is a mandate of the president to do that. And so getting more billions through Eurobond that are scheduled for payment for a longer period is the best ship hope.
Yes.
That is option one. There is no other option. There is no option two. There is no option three.
Yes.
That is the only option. And so we must bite the bullet,
Yes.
go through that route, extricate the country from the debt distress,
Yes.
and grow the economy.
Yes.
And growing the economy
Yes.
up to 2031 will not be a difficult thing. And once you do that, you are able, one, you have saved the country
Yes.
from. Usually, when the country is listed as a defaulter, you literally shut down. Your currency slumps. It becomes so useless. You will be earning salary using a wheelbarrow. You'll carry all useless money using it. We'll have a useless economy and a useless country. So I think the decision by the president is well thought out, well advised, and it's going to work. So that then the country can breathe from the debt distress for at least the next couple of years as we work on the economy to grow. That is the best option. And therefore, if you call it expensive loan, which loan is cheap? All loans are repaid with interest. A loan is a loan. And if you borrow a loan that you are going to take a longer time to repay, then the interest will definitely higher because you'll retain the money for a longer time to do what you want to do. So I think those are simple, basic economic facts, and therefore it's going to be good news if the country is out of the debt distress. Then we begin managing our economy internally and ensure that we press down inflation. And you can see inflation came down from about 9% to 6.7. It has gone up a bit to 6.9, so it's still below 7. Manage the inflation and get down to deal with the basic requirements of Kenyans, particularly social services. Ensure that health is provided. And you can see the four pieces of legislation that will take care of the primary healthcare facilities, so that there are drugs, and the personnel, and the community health promoters, that you deal with health care at the household level is the best way of removing the cost of health care completely. Social health insurance fund, so that all Kenyans are covered, except those who are poor, they are paid for by the state. Meaning, anybody walking in for any treatment, you don't need to you don't need to exclude when it comes to treatment. It means all Kenyans will be treated in their facilities. And then lastly, the classification of dealing with the critical illnesses, which insurances are refusing to cover. The diabetes, the cancer, HIV and AIDS and the rest. Now there is a vote for that Kenyans who have got terminal illnesses can be treated at the cost of government. That's big news. So if that is done within this framework, which is a key pillar of the president, and it is delivered and it works, tell me why household will spend money on healthcare. Education. If education is fully funded, properly targeted, and you extricate all households, tell me why households will have to pay high fees. The high fees you are hearing being talked about in Kenya here is boarding. Boarding is some form of expensive tourist destinations where children are confined and parents are made to pay huge fees. But I think day education is already available. Over 70% of Kenyans are attending. We only need to make it qualitative and improve the quality of day schools by availing teachers and the necessary infrastructure. Agriculture sector.
Abdul, we are out of time. So.
Agriculture sector. If you subsidize the inputs so that then farmers can produce at low cost, and also you provide market guarantee for the for the sale of their produce,
Yes.
then tell me why households that are engaged in active agricultural income
Yes.
across the country will
Yes.
suffer.
Yes.
So that generally we'll have a vibrant economy
Thank you.
that protects the ordinary household,
Yes.
and of course that extricates the country from the debt distress. So I think the debt review and
Yes.
negotiation by the president
Yes.
is the best
Thank you.
from the economic point of view
Thank you.
and social point of view.
Yes. Honorable Wilson Sosion, who is a former nominated MP, joining us on The Viewpoint, and also
And
Agnes
don't
Kariuki.
forget, Chief Administrative
Chief
Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Currently,
Yes.
I'm gazetted and sworn in, except those matters that are in court and elsewhere.
Yes.
Those are non-issues.
And also Advocate Agnes Kariuki, who is an advocate of the High Court. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you for having me.
This has been The Viewpoint. Good morning, Kenya takes a short break. Don't go too far. My name is Mike Migwi. Bye-bye for now.